The Wild Wild West. Like, they are legit dressed as the Wild Wild West. This is a haunted, known attraction, the Birdcage Theater of Tombstone. This is back in 1888. They had a bar room, gambling casino, dance hall. Wow. It says, within these walls stand the remains of a bygone era in Western history. It is. It's nice, but it has a little creepiness here. Especially if it gets dark. There's my boo. She is cold. What were you reading, baby?
A little bit about the Birdcage Theater. It's cold. It says Carly Bill Brooks's killed Marshall Fredwood here on October 28th, 1880.
So there was someone that was killed here. Wow, in this very spot right here. That is interesting. All right. Look, and they even have the old school carriages. Oh, that's cute. Look at that.
Welcome to the world-famous Birdcage Theater. The Birdcage was built here in 1881 and survived the fires of 1881 and 1882. They were built as a theater, saloon, gambling hall, and house of ill repute, all under the same roof. There are 14 Birdcage cribs upstairs, 7 going back on each side of the bridge we call the catwalk. Ladies would be on the bridge, catch the eye of a gentleman on the floor, and take him up the narrow staircase to be entertained. We were only open 8.5 years, but the top few steps have been worn down to the thickness of a silver dollar by the traffic. This bar sitting here is our original cherry wood bar. The diamond dust mirrors came from Paris, France. The bar was made in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When it was finished, the railroad wouldn't take it on as freight, so it sailed around the Horn of South America to Guaymas, Mexico, and came by wagon train to Tombstone. It was put in place right where you see it for the grand opening December 26, 1881. There were 16 gunfights in here, 26 people died. We have about 140 bullet holes in the building. Still 45 caliber slugs still in the front of the bar today. In the ceiling between the light and the fan, there's a 32. We have a 45 ricochet on the show bill frame and a 44 caliber slug in the green wall to the right of Patina. She danced here in 1881, sent that portrait in 1882, and it's been hanging in here ever since. Look closely and you'll see 6 toe lash in her skirt below her knees. Behind that partition wall, you can see the gambling hall where I'll call it a faro. That faro table sits in its original spot in the wings. The blackjack and dice tables are on the floor as well. The grand piano still sits in front of the hand-painted stage. Up on that stage, you'll see photographs of the men and women that performed here. You can also see the horse-drawn hearse, the Black Mariah. She served our town for 36 years, carrying bodies to Boot Hill and the city cemetery. One of 8 Babe Cunningham coach works in Rochester, New York. She is trimmed in 24-karat gold and sterling silver. The Black Mariah is the last of those 8 known to exist, and she's worth about $2 million, which makes her one of Tombstone's most valuable antiques. Downstairs, you can see the poker pit where the West's longest running poker game took place. That game lasted for 8 years, 5 months, 3 days around the clock. There was a waiting list to get in. It was $1,000 to have your name added to the waiting list. Pat Masterson, Diamond, Jim Brady, Adolphus Bush, and George Hurst all met here 4 times a year to play together at that table. Our wine cellar has bottles and barrels in it, still left over from the 1880s, and the 2 bordello bedrooms are fully furnished because they thought the women would return when the mines reopened, but the mines never did reopen. Those are just a few of the highlights to see inside this gorgeous old building. We offer self-guided tours from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, and we offer nightly guided ghost tours in the building as well. If you're into the paranormal, don't hesitate to ask us about our ghost tours. Otherwise, if you'd like to take a trip back into the 1880s, you can step on up to the bar and we'll start you through. $15 for adults, seniors 60 and older, kids age 18, and military are $14 each, and our family package covers 2 adults plus all the kids 8 to 18 for just $40. So welcome to the world famous Birdcage Theatre. This is the original building from 1881. Survived both the fires of 1881 and 1882, and then was closed for 45 years. Till 1934, when it reopened as a historical landmark. So everything is original. Floors, ceilings, chandeliers, drapes. This is how it was back in the day. Of course, this partition would not be here. Originally, you could see from the doors all the way through to the stage. So in its heyday, it was a gambling hall, saloon, house of ill repute, and a theater all combined. The miners and cowboys will go up those little steps on the way to see the shady ladies. And the 14 cribs, 7 on either side, moved out little locker boxes, and for $25, he could buy her affections. That's the original dumbwaiter. That would take wine, whiskey, cigars, cigarettes, up to the cribs on the police's.
Look at this, how beautiful. Wow. It's like we legit just came back into the Wild Wild West, you guys. Literally. It's windy, so I don't know if the audio is gonna pick up the wind, but this is just a whole... Babe, don't you feel like you just legit came back into the Wild Wild West? Oh, someone's getting hungry. Look at how pretty they are. Aw, I'm so in love with those. I think they're Clydesdales, but I could be wrong. And it's nice, look, it's cloudy outside. It's legit like we just stepped back into the Wild Wild West. Mira, uy. It is literally an experience. Let's see what this says. All welcome, Tombstone 1881. To avoid gunfights, check your pistols at the door. Oh, okay. I don't know what that is, and I ain't knocking on that door. No, ma'am. But they do have haunted tours here, you guys. So this is known to be haunted. Will you see the train, babe? Right here, I've lived Linda Lou. So there's a lot of shops, but look at like old Western. People are dressed in full attire. My boo's beautiful hair. But look at this, is a saloon right here. You go in there and eat. Okay. I want to do a gunfight with my boo. Mira el charro allá. Mira el charro. Oh, hola. Hola. Mira. Don Pancho. Acá. ¿Cómo se fue? This is me and my boo. She wants us to do that one right there. And I'm gonna be in the corset dress.
That's right.
And my boo gonna be right there. I can't. Ariel's over there. Ariel's getting her footage. It's so nice here. There's a breeze. Ariel's freezing, but you know me. I'm good. Oh, those are cute. So now we're walking to the gun show. I did not claim anything that is not of Jesus. And this is the real deal, you guys. Ooh, I'm scared. Why is that mirror moving? Is that mirror moving? Ooh. This is an actual sheriff. But again, I come with the protection of Jesus Christ. Uy. Mira. Oh no. Uy, la madre. Oh my gosh. Girl, I'm about to have a heart attack. Here comes my boo.
Tombstone Cowboys, Marty Robbins, and Big Iron!
Tombstone, the second largest city in the West, next to San Francisco. Now, in a decade's time, those miners pulled out roughly $85 million in silver. But in today's day and age, that is about $1.9 trillion. That's a lot of money, right? Yeah! We brought all kinds of walks of life into our town. People looking to get ahead and get a piece of that pie, if you know what I mean. But then your real outlaws came in, your real bad guys, your bankers, lawyers, and politicians. Back over here on Allen Street, we had over 120 saloons, and they were pumping whiskey 24 hours a day. I see a few people people still miss those days. We also had 2,500 registered ladies in the night. Yeah, and their fans. Brings us to the story we're going to tell you today. It's called 10-Star Justice. Now the miner loses his mule. Has a run-in with the cowboy. The cowboy back then didn't have the romanticizing imagery that it does today. In fact, met a lowlife, thief, scoundrel. By the way, have you guys met your drunk marshal lately? He's going to need to find a lot more encouragement than he's going to find at the bottom of that water bottle. Let's bring out our good guy, Marshall Baker. Marshall, you got your own theme music?
I don't know, that just follows me wherever I go.
What are you doing in the bar? You're paid to protect the town.
I am protecting the town.
Well, now how do you figure that?
Well, that's the loose part of the town, ain't it?
All right, he's got me on a technicality. But look at you, you're a mess. Hands are all shaky, and don't get me started on those eyes.
My eyes? What's wrong with my eyes?
Well, they're all red and bloodshot, right, folks?
Man, you think they look bad from your side, you should see them from mine.
Come on. Hey, Marshall, these town folks, they lied to me. Told me you got true grit.
How you got true grit?
You ain't got no grit. I've seen both those movies. You ain't even got the cool eye patch or nothing.
Amazon Prime, baby!
John Wayne impression I've ever heard. Hey, Bill, over here, ad-libbing, what's the matter? Get your line, cat got your tongue?
That's right, you're gonna shoot me. You're standing over there and talk me to death.
It's all live inventory. These guns are real. And I'm not John Wayne. I can't get 86 shots out of a 6-shooter. I'll tell you what, I do got a bullet right here with your name on it.
Yeah?
That says Billy Gummy right on the side. It's going right between your eyes, Marshall. Right between your eyes.
Let's dance!
Tell you what, Marshall, old windows right here. I'm better and faster than you. You got one shot, you drunk.
Well, you ain't standing too tall now, are you, Pilgrim?
Stop doing John Wayne. It's like a war crime. What are you loading that thing with? You know?
I am scared.
Hey, Dad. Dad.
I've never done this before, you guys. This is an actual ghost tour. We're on a trolley here in Tombstone.
Our first story tonight is about a woman named Mrs. Pring. Now, Mrs. Pring was married to a man who was a mining engineer. Now, her husband being a mining engineer, that meant he had to be gone away from home quite a lot. He traveled all over the state and indeed into other states as well. Nevada, those kind of places where a lot of mining was going on. And Mrs. Pring was left home by herself quite often. Now, Mrs. Pring suffered from something that was known then as melancholy. Can anybody tell me what melancholy is? Nobody? Depression. Melancholy today is known as depression. Well, today we have lots of things that the doctors can do to help a person who has depression or melancholy. But back in the 1880s, there really wasn't anything that anybody could do for this poor woman. And she suffered horribly from this condition. She would get so distraught, so upset, that she would come out and she would walk up and down this couple of blocks along here. Now, over time, the exact house that she lived in has been lost to history, but it was one of these along here. And she would be so upset, she would walk along the streets here, screaming and crying, wailing, calling out for her husband. She would tear at her hair. She would be so upset. She may have been tearing at her clothing, and she may be indecent, so make sure you avert your eyes. All right, so our next story is going to be about the courthouse over here. If you look to the back of the courthouse, normally we use a spotlight, but it's not really all that dark. I don't think it's going to show up, and we're not going to need it. But you see that spiral staircase there at the back corner of the courthouse? That was the emergency exit out of the courthouse, and still is to this day. But the thing is, we get some very interesting orb pictures that are taken of that staircase. And the orbs on that staircase are very interesting because they are blue, green, red, rather than the standard white and yellow orbs that we see most of the time. Sometimes we get some very interesting orb pictures taken on that staircase. So you want to take plenty of pictures, folks. We're going to pull forward just... There was a gentleman who worked here at the courthouse. His name was Mr. Swain. Now, one of our other drivers, Timber, actually lived here in 1968, 69, 70 time frame. When he was a young man, he was about 12 years old. And he and his brother actually knew Mr. Swain. They would stop in the afternoons in some of these saloons in town. And Mr. Swain, being what a nice gentleman he was, he would buy the boys a beer, a sarsaparilla, and he would sit and chat with the boys and talk to them and tell them stories about Tombstone. Well, Timber just loved Mr. Swain, and now he has taken a look at this picture, and he swears that that is indeed a photo of Mr. Swain. Now, if you will look at the doors there at the front of the courthouse, those great big white doors, those doors are 12 feet tall. At the top of those doors, you'll see a series of relights, those little square windows at the top. And if you look at the one on the left-hand side, that's the one that this picture focuses on. Now, Timber looked at this picture, and he swears that that is indeed a picture of Mr. Swain. Now, Mr. Swain, unfortunately, passed away around the mid-1980s, around 1984, 85 time frame. And that picture was taken in the late 1990s, about 20 years after Mr. Swain passed away, about 15 or 20 years. The only way that face got in that window, it was either standing on a ladder or it was levitating. That's a very tall reach for your tiptoes.
I think I see
You ready for the ghost story?
I see an
Come
eye.
on, folks. Are we ready for the ghost story?
Yeah.
All right. Now you're helping
I see
me
an eye
out.
in the
There we
window.
go. Well, the folks who work here at the courthouse, the rangers, the forest rangers who work here at the courthouse, will tell you that when they open in the morning, they can hear Mr. Swain. He's up there on that second floor. He's dragging that mop bucket around, and he's whistling while he worked, just like he always has. Very cheerful guy. He was always very happy to be at work, and you could always hear him whistling as he was sweeping or mopping, dusting off radiators, whatever he was doing. Very, very nice guy, very happy to be there. He's still there. He enjoyed that job so much, he never left. We're going to move forward just a little bit, and out here beside the courthouse, we have a little tiny courtyard. At the back of the courtyard, you'll see a brick wall where those folks are standing, and up over the top of that brick wall, you can just see the top of the gallows. Now, there were 7 men legally hanged here in Tombstone. The last 2 were the Halderman brothers. They were hanged in November of the year 1900. They killed a deputy and a constable who had come to their home to arrest them for cattle rustling. Now, the other 5 men who were hanged here in Tombstone were responsible for something known as the Bisbee Massacre. There was a mine payroll due into the mercantile, the Castaneda Mercantile in Bisbee. Now, these men were part of the Cochise County Cowboys. If that sounds at all familiar, it's because it's the same group of people who were involved in the shootout incident on Fremont Street, also known as the shootout at the OK Corral, which didn't happen at the OK Corral, but I'll explain that later. But it's the same group of outlaws. Well, these guys decided they were going to rob that payroll from the Mercantile. So they show up in Bisbee at the Castaneda Mercantile. They go walking in, and they discover that the shipment was late leaving Tucson. There's nothing there to rob. So they start robbing the Mercantile. They rob the people who were in the Mercantile shopping, who were coming in just on a regular day. They make about $800 instead of the $8,000 or $9,000 they were hoping for from the payroll building overnight. They can set up their equipment and then they have to leave. The building's locked up and then they come back the next morning to see what they might have gotten. Well, one of those paranormal shows came here. They did exactly that. They left. They came back the next morning and they started videotaping the host of the show, looking through the footage to see what they had found. Well, he was in a mood, apparently, to be a skeptic. So everything that he saw on the tape that somebody would point out and say, ooh, what's that? He would go, that's just headlights from a car going by on the street out front. And something else would come up and he would say, that's just the HVAC system kicking on. He denied everything. He gets to the end of the tape and he said, this place isn't haunted, there's nothing here. Just at that moment, on the videotape of him, a boa feather appears and floats down right in front of his face and lands on the ground right at his feet. It's like the ladies of the evening there were telling him, disprove this. Now the folks that work there will tell you when they open up in the morning, or if they're there late at night just closing up, they can smell lilac, they can smell strawberry or vanilla. Those are the scents that the ladies of the evening would wear. Back in the day, you had two choices. You had very expensive French perfume, or you had whatever you could find in the pantry. So those ladies couldn't afford those expensive French perfumes. They would use those scents to make themselves appealing.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and close out the vlog here, y'all. Thank you so much for the love and the support. Here, this is the Boot Hill Graveyard. We did not get off, we came in peace and we're leaving in peace. But this was established in 1883. And again, this is where we'll go ahead and close off. Thank you for the love.